How's it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. It is the big thing with me, Kristian Harloff. Thanks for joining me here today. This is a really good show today. I'm excited about it. There's a few news stories, and they're big news stories. And whether it is the fact that Max and Paramount Plus might be merging, it looks like Beetlejuice 2, that is, screened at a festival and opened it up. The Bear, Season 3, crushing on Hulu. And I'll get a little editorial piece on the Acolyte and whether or not I think that episodes 5 through 8 can turn it around. But the main thing here, too, is the interview that I have with Chris Mazzilli. Chris Mazzilli is the co-host of the show with Robert Downey Jr., Robert Downey Jr.'s Dream Cars, the sweepstakes that they do on Max. And he also is co-owner of the Gotham Comedy Club and a fellow New Yorker. And great conversation with Chris. Really good conversation with Chris. And we talked about everything inside of the show, whether it's the things that he's working, the cars that he's working on, the working with Robert Downey Jr., knowing Robert's dad, and that's how he got involved in all of it, his involvement with the comedy clubs, talking about stand-up comedy in general, some of the comics that have come in through his club, and he's just a really good guy. And to have a conversation with him about it was great. So I'm excited to show you guys that interview. And then that's it. That's the show. It's a big show. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. It's the big thing. It's me, Kristian Harloff. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the big thing. It's Tuesday. And man, we have a lot of stuff going on this week on the channel. You know, we have the Acolyte reviews. I put another clip out for the Jamie Campbell Bower interview that we did. We have Sam Morrell coming on next week with me and Roxy. We got Chris Mazzilli on today. The interviews are just, I told you I was going to make a bigger push for interviews this year, and that's what we're doing. But we also have topics to talk about. So if you've never been here before, make sure you subscribe to the channel. As I mentioned, we have all these things, reviews, reactions, interviews, that and more on the channel. So make sure you hit that button. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is this Max and Paramount story. So let's check this out. From Dark Horizons, Max and Paramount, the merging is considered. Paramount Global is reportedly having active discussions with a number of companies to potentially merge its money-losing Paramount Plus streaming service with an existing platform from another studio, according to CNBC. One of the companies that has expressed a desire to reach a deal is Warner Brothers Discovery. Such a deal would see the combining of Max and Paramount Plus in a joint venture that could strengthen both services by allowing them to better compete with larger rivals like Disney and Netflix. A merged service would give customers more diverse programming and fewer reasons to cancel each month. Ownership, however, wouldn't be 50-50 split, given the finances and libraries of the two studios. Warner Brothers Discovery had preliminary merger talks for a deal for all of Paramount Global earlier this year, but those didn't take off. NBC Universal and its Peacock platform also expressed interest in a joint venture with Paramount Plus, but talks didn't progress and never got particularly far, says the new report. Max has around 100 million global subscribers, with 52.7 in the U.S., while Paramount Plus ended its first quarter this year with 71 million subscribers. Paramount Global is also reportedly considering partnering with a technology platform. You're going to see more and more stuff like this happening as the studios went to jump into this thing thinking it was a viable business, that everybody was going to jump on board with their platforms and their libraries, and realizing there's a lot more to it. You're running this whole TV network, if you will, and you got to have new stuff that wants to keep people interested. So merging with a HBO Max, does that make sense? Yeah, it does. Of course it makes sense. HBO Max is, and HBO, the quality of HBO has always been wonderful. Now, when you have also coupled that with everything that Discovery did, and that platform was doing great. When it was HBO Max, it was phenomenal. Now it's Max. It's phenomenal. It's one of my favorite streaming services because of the quality stuff that they have. If you're adding all the stuff in the Paramount Plus and the library of Paramount, and essentially getting all the licensing of that. Now you own it. If you certain movies that they have, the Taylor Sheridan universe and all that, you're gonna up your claim, and you're gonna get more people. You're gonna get those people who go to that Sheridan universe, and you're gonna get them signing up to Max, and that's one of the main reasons, right? And I think there's and smarter people can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that, like, I was talking to my wife about this last night. I really liked 1923. I've been waiting for the second season of that. There's reports that it's supposed to come out in 2024. Who knows? But I would assume that one of the reasons that the delay is happening is because of, well, wait a minute. If we sell this thing, we'll get some HBO Max money, and they can invest in it. We'll put a little bit more into it. It'll be a Max show. Let's hold off for a second before we announce anything. Let's chill out for a bit. We have some of these things. We have all these other shows, whether it's Tulsa King, all these different programs that also elevate a little bit more if you start to see that Max label on the Paramount Plus, unless they still call it Paramount Plus, which they still could, and it just is kind of coupled into the Max logo in the same way that Max has all the different, whether it's the news outlets that they have on there or whatever else that they have on there, and then there'll be another label for the Paramount Plus stuff in the same way that you have for a lot of these streamings. It just puts it more in contention, as they said in that report, to go up against Disney, to go up against Netflix. And it's already a contender. If not, I would rank HBO Max I would rank that over Disney overall. I mean, as a parent, Disney's great for all the different kids shows and all the classic movies. And now, well, Disney, the way that they incorporate Hulu and everything, I mean, I still watch Hulu through Hulu when I realize I could just do it through my Disney app. So I can see where they would be in contention, but I still would put as Netflix is, I think, the champ still, and has done different things significantly to keep themselves in that number one spot. But out of all the stuff that I watch, I mean, Apple to me has the best quality stuff, to be honest with you. But out of those three, I would put Max as the number one, and then I would put Netflix, and then I would put Disney, or maybe even tie Disney. I don't know. It depends. But I put Max as the number one, even hearing myself say it. So you adding Paramount Plus to it, it can only elevate it. I think it's a smart move. And it also makes sense that they wouldn't get 50-50. Why would they get 50-50? As they said in the report, it's a failing service. It's got good stuff. It's got a good library, but not the amount of content and everything else that would bring more prowess, if you will, to that streaming service, which is Max. And more people come and watch the show because they know it's on Max. Oh, I already have Max. I'm just going to sign up for Max. I already have signed up for it, and now I get this. I wouldn't even heard of this Kingstown show or whatever the Jeremy Renner one is, and let me watch it. People love that show, by the way. And now people are going to watch it even more because it's the same, even though it's different in this, in where Cobra Kai was on YouTube. That's where it started. It was a YouTube Originals thing, and it was on for, I think, the first 2 seasons, maybe one. I think it was 2. And then season 3, Netflix picked it up, and it blew up because you got more eyes on it, right? Now, Paramount Plus is not the YouTube Shorts or YouTube Originals. It's Paramount Plus, but it's not Max. If you surveyed most people, as you saw, 100 million to 70 million, most people have Max, less people have Paramount Plus. So it would make sense. Now, these other places that are in the running for it or talking about it, doesn't seem like anybody, top contenders have really emerged, except I think HBO Max or Max is going to make this play, and I think it's going to make it happen. And I think it'll be for the better for that streaming service. What do you guys think? Do you think that is indeed the case? Or do you think, no, that's not it? It shouldn't. It should either stand on its own. Someone else should pick it up. They should do something. Let's license out their shit. What do you think? Put your comments in there and let me know. We have a lot of other topics to talk about. As I said, the Acolyte, we're going to get into the episodes and whether or not they can make a turnaround. Beetlejuice, we'd mentioned Hulu. But I really want to share this interview with you with Chris Mazzilli, who co-hosts the show with Robert Downey Jr. And he also co-owns the Gotham Comedy Club here in New York. And I didn't know much about Chris except what I knew as far as him hosting, being into cars, doing this show on Max, and And I really enjoyed the conversation with him. You'll see I hit it off with him pretty good. It's just felt like somebody I knew, and I grew up with people just like him. So let me introduce him to you guys. This is Chris Mazzilli from the Robert Downey Jr. Dream Car, the sweepstakes show that they do on Max. Here he is. Enjoy the conversation, and we'll talk about it on the other side. All right, you know what stinks? When you're stuck in a loop of rent payments, you're just watching your money vanish into thin air. It's the worst. It's time to turn the rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. How do you do that? That is where Bilt Rewards comes in. Bilt is breaking ground as the first rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Doesn't matter, even if you're rocking the old school rent check vibes, Bilt Rewards, it's got your back. They're going to mail the check for you. It's like basically having a personal rent paying assistant. It's the best. Every month, you pay your rent and you watch the points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. Pay rent hassle-free through the Bilt Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbilt.com/bigthing. That is joinbilt.com/bigthing. So use our URL so they know that we sent you. That's joinbilt.com/bigthing. Start earning points with your rent payments today. So many comments lately about everybody that's buying the Tushies. And I see why you're buying them. I love them. You love them. Chris Carr loves them. Everybody loves the Tushies. I'm so excited to get you guys to get a Tushy that I almost thought about doing this from the bathroom. But then I was like, no, I want you to get it. It's terrible. That's a terrible thing for me to do. But I want to do it because I want to show you how much I love the Tushies. Check this out alone. Look at this. Just open up the toilet lid. You spray the water right in your tush. It's wonderful. Look at that. That's how it works. It's that easy. You put it on the toilet. You open it up. You spray the water on your butt. It's lovely. It's going to change the way that you think about cleaning up after a spicy dump in a coffee shop or a porta potty during a music festival. You're going to want to take Tushy with you everywhere, and thankfully you can. Because the Tushy Travel, it's collapsible, it's durable, and discreet portable bidet that gives you the most confident clean on the go. I keep telling people about these things. Everybody are getting the Tushies now, and everyone's like, oh, man, can I use your code? Can I use your code? Of course you can. It's the best. I got one. I've got two in my house right now, and it is so wonderful. We feel classy in this house. It's got a 3-stream nozzle for a total clean. It's got a new air mesh bag for discreet travel, faster dry time. It comes in 5 new colors. Every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and 12-month warranty. So stop wiping until you bleed. Join the 2 million butts who have already made the switch to Tushy. For a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off your entire order, but you got to use that code BIGTHING. 10% off Hello Tushy, HELLTUSHY.com with the promo code BIGTHING. Okay, guys, as I set it up earlier, I'm very excited to talk to this next gentleman, and it's not only the project that he's working on is incredible. You know, Robert Downey Jr., he's got the sweepstakes and the story of how he got involved in it, the stuff he does with cars, but he's also co-owner of the Gotham Comedy Club, and so much, and he doesn't know this, and I just told a friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, this story also, is that when it comes to my next guest, Chris Mazzilli, I have a lot of stuff in common because he's a co-owner of the Gotham Comedy Club, and I wish I would have shown it, but back in the day when I was, I used to do shows with Sebastian Maniscalco. I used to do shows with Brett Ernst, and those are regulars at his club. So I want to talk comedy with this guy. But then Robert Downey Jr., Susan Downey, who's also part of the show, was my boss for 3 years at Silver Pictures. I just ran into Susan recently at the Critics' Choice Awards. So there's so much I get to talk to with Chris, and I want to welcome him to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Mazzilli. What's up, Chris? How are you?
Great, Kristian. Thanks for having me. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that you knew Sebastian, and Ernst, and you work with Susan. That's what a coincidence.
That's such a coincidence. Because yeah. So I was a Comedy Store guy. I was born in Queens, and
I know that. I looked that up because I'm a Queens guy too.
What part?
I was born in Flushing.
Oh, it's in Bayside. I went to school at Holy Cross.
That's crazy.
That's
I
great.
moved when I was 3. I was born in Booth Memorial Hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
And moved to Long Island. And actually, my brother lived for a long time on Roselle.
Okay. Yeah. So there's
right up Jericho.
Yeah. Well, I have been back in New York now for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Get out of here.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. I lived in LA for over 20 some odd years. When my my first comedy I started in at Florida State of all places, and then from there, I went to I went to Los Angeles, and I started doing shows in Los Angeles. That's when I met Brett, I met Sam Tripoli, I met Steve Renazzisi, Rick Ingram, and Sebastian, all these guys, and that's Steve Simone, a really good friend of mine, and Ari Shafir. The list goes on and on and on. So I became a regular at the Comedy Store because of Brett Ernst. Brett saw me a bunch of times and recommended me to Mitzi, and I had the whole conversation. You're really good. You gotta come back to the club. And she's like my Yoda. She was like my Yoda. I love it. I love it. And so that was my spot. So then when seeing that let's talk about that. How did you get involved in the comedy scene, and tell me about opening up Gotham Comedy Club?
It's kind of a crazy story. So I wanted to be an attorney, if you could believe that. And I played soccer in high school. I was pretty decent, and I was talking to Columbia about going there because, like I said, I want to be an attorney, so I was going to go there undergrad. And then I blew my knees out, and it ended my soccer career. It was before they had arthroscopic surgery. Okay. So back in the day, they would cut you like 6 inches on each knee. You had to go in a wheelchair. So I saw a bunch of different doctors, and I was like, look, I finally just talked to the last guy. He's actually the New York Jets doctor. And I said, if I was your son, what would you tell me to do? He said, I would do the surgery. I let it heal on its own because you didn't tear anything in half. You kind of shredded it like chop meat.
Sure.
So it changed my path. I didn't go to Columbia. I went to FIT. I studied menswear design. Got out of college, did that for a half a second, and decided I wanted to be an actor. Went to acting school.
Oh wow, okay. How do you discover that in the middle of all that? Was that just something that was in there since you were a kid?
Yeah,
and you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it.
I had done some plays as a kid in school, and I always and I was like, look, I'm living in New York City. I'm 20 years old. Why not? Let me give it a shot.
Sure.
What do I got to lose? Mm-hmm. So I got lucky. I got signed with an agent. I booked a couple things and did a couple episodes of Law and Order and New York Undercover, some of the New York-based shows, and then from there I started doing stand-up. And, going around to the clubs, I was like, these clubs don't treat comedians very well, and they're not run very well. And I had a business background. My father had fruit and vegetable stores and then supermarkets, and I started working with him when I was 8. So I knew a lot about business, and I got hired to run another club for a short while, and then decided to kind of bust out on my own. And I met this comedian that was a Wall Street guy, and he had some money, and kind of that's how it came together.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Gotham is so Mark Ellis is another, like one of my best friends, if not my best friend, and we talk about Gotham all the time. And we when we come in do stuff, and it's like it's got the names that come in there, and obviously from Seinfeld to Sebastian to everybody performs at Gotham.
It's been a crazy run. My brother joined me like 17 years ago and really kind of helped take the club to a different level. So listen, I love it. It's a special place. And, to be honest with you, Kristian, it doesn't feel like work. Like I to this day, and I'm doing it almost 30 years. The club was open 28 years last month. I love going to work.
Right. You get to laugh all the time. You get to, and the amount of, and stuff that we probably can't even talk about in the air. The amount of crazy shit that you see at a comedy club. It's like,
oh my God.
It's insane.
The behind the scenes stuff is almost as funny as stuff going on stage. Let me tell you,
dude. I saw stuff, and I've talked about it on here. The stuff that used to, and now the Comedy Store is a very different place today than I got past at the end of 2002 into 2000, and it was very radically different. It was like the old stinky gym for a while, which I wouldn't trade in the world, but it was very different to how it is today. And the shit that was going on with Don Barris and other stuff at the end on 2 a.m. was just incredible. But there's just something magical about, I can only imagine owning it and seeing the amount of people coming in and out. And if you legit like to see people laugh and have a good time, what a spot to have.
Yeah, no, it's I feel very, very blessed. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, all right, let's talk about the other side of how we get related here, where, as I mentioned, one of my things that I did, and speaking of Steve Simone, I remember I was working in development for a while. I went from working in, because I was doing stand-up all the time. My ex-girlfriend at the time, she's like, you got to do something. You got to have some kind of job. And I'm like, well, I think what I like is film. I like film. She's like, intern somewhere. So I did. I interned at Village Roadshow. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and I worked.
Company.
It was a great company. And my buddy Fred Klein, also a New Yorker, who I was the guy that I didn't have anything to lose. So I was raising my hand, getting involved in the meetings all the time. So at the end of it, they were like, well, let me recommend you to some places. And I was working at Alcon Entertainment for a little bit, doing stuff, but I was just kind of running around like office managing. That's not what I want to do. I want to be in development. So there was a job opening at Silver Pictures. And so I applied for it. My friend Jesse Israel helped me get in there. I had the interview, bullshit my interview the whole way through, and I wound up getting the job working for David Gambino and Eric Olson. And the head of that company, or that department, was Susan Downey at the time, Susan Levine. So, and so I got to know her, and she was always she used to come to the stand-up shows, my shows all the time. And so we talked about when I went to, I saw her at the Critics' Choice Awards, and then around that time was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and all that.
Yep.
And then Robert used to show up all the time too, and this is right where right before the spike and where he is now. But you've gotten involved because you and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were friends with his father, yes?
Yeah, crazy story. So
Tell me.
about 20 or so years ago, through a mutual friend, I met his dad, and his dad wanted me to produce a film for him. It was called Rockaway Bob. It was a script that Senior wrote, and Steve Buscemi was attached to. And we did a reading at the public, and we were kind of moving along with it. And then Senior got hired to direct a big budget documentary. So he left to go do that. But we stayed friends. And literally, we would have lunch like once a month, And he loved comedy. He used to come to the club all the time. Matter of fact, I turned him on to Amy Schumer, to Sebastian. He'd always say to me, Chris, who should I know about? And he loved Sebastian, loved Amy. But we became good buddies, and it was, we were very close, when Robert was going through his stuff, and Robert and I were only a few months apart. We're like the same age.
Okay.
And he admitted, he said, look, I made mistakes, as a father, but I love my son and I want him to do well. And, when everything kind of turned around, and believe me, Susan was a big part of that, Bob was elated. So we never made that movie, but we stayed friends. And over the years, I got to meet Junior at a few family functions.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew him. So you put that, piece of the puzzle to the side for a second. Fast forward, I have this restoration shop.
Mm-hmm.
A very good friend of mine is an agent at CAA. I knew him since he was an assistant at William Morris 30 years ago. And when he used to come to the comedy club, I used to take care of him, treat him like a king, and he was a nobody. And he went up to become like the head of A&E, and then he went back to agenting, and now he actually works at Kimball's company. His name is Scott Lonker. But Scott said to me, Chris, you got all these different car ideas and these production ideas. You should meet this guy named Jay Peterson. He's got a production company called Matador Content. He goes, I think you guys would kind of hit it off. And we did. So the first thing we did was we built a Camaro for Jay in the shop, 68 Camaro convertible. And then we were working on pitching some different ideas together. And I wound up doing a series with Matador and Michelle Rodriguez called Riding Shotgun with Michelle Rodriguez. Initially, I was brought on to produce it and procure the cars for it. And then I wound up being the co-host of that show. Okay. So that was kind of the first project that Jay and I worked together. And it was a great experience, great company. I love Jay. He's like a brother, good man. And then fast forward, we kept in contact. We built some other cars, but fast forward a few years later, we built this really sick Ford Bronco for Jay. Big dollar custom, beautiful, beautiful car. And 4 years ago, he was driving it out in the Hamptons. And Johnny Shuloff, who's one of Robert's partners, saw it, flipped out over it, and said, I love this thing. Who built it? Oh, wow. And would he talk to Robert, because Robert wants to modify some of his cars. So Jay, not knowing I knew Robert, said, yeah, my car spirit guy, this guy Chris Mazzilli, built it. I'm sure he'll talk to Robert. Here's his number. So Johnny calls me up, tells me what he just said to Jay. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm happy to talk to him. I said, matter of fact, I know him. He's like, you know him? I said, yeah. I said, if you tell him, he'll know me, So Junior and I get in the phone, and he says, Mazzilli, he's like, I didn't know you had this restoration shop. I said, yeah. I said, it's been a passion of mine since I'm a little kid. My dad worked for Chevrolet. He was a street racer, so I love cars. Yeah. And I could definitely help you. I said, what do you want to do with the cars? He goes, well, I had this green charity called Footprint Coalition. We fund green initiatives, green companies. He said, I have all these gas guzzling cars. How could I drive these gas guzzling cars if I had this green charity? I want to modify my cars in an eco-friendly way. Can you help me? And I said, yeah. I said, no problem. I said, and what do you want to do when you're done with me? He goes, I want to sell them to fund the charity. So I said, look, I just did a sweepstakes with 36 Corvettes. And we did a TV series on History Channel called Lost Corvettes to kind of support it. So I said, if I were you, you'll make more money if we do a sweepstakes, and when we do a TV series, support it. He's like, oh my God. He's like, that's a great idea. Because I love that idea. So myself, Junior, John Shuloff, and Jay Peterson got together 4 years ago. Jay and I pitched Robert and Johnny the idea of the show. Robert stopped us in the middle and said, "You know what? I get it. I love it. The four of us will exec produce it, and me and Mazzilli will co-host it." So that's how the whole thing came together.
It's really great. It's really great, and it's so funny. Like to hear you say, like, I'm glad that that's the way we kind of transitioned to this, from knowing his dad, like leaning into this, and then like, yeah, because you have that connection already. He's more comfortable in the first place when you get on the phone with him, so you have that. You don't have to get through that. I got to sell you who I am type thing. He knows who you are, and the actual love for it and the love for cars, which is something I definitely want to get more into with you, because that's got to be the most important thing. Like anytime you're talking to anyone, especially on the other side of the phone, you want to, or whatever it is, you want to make sure that they know what the hell they're talking about, that they are going to trust the stuff that you have, and that you can, if you're going to co-host a show with him, he wants to make sure that you guys have a vibe.
Yeah, no question about it. And he told me, he said he talked to his dad about it, and his dad kind of gave, and his dad was so happy. It's a shame because his father passed right at the beginning of production.
Oh man.
And I miss him dearly. He was a good man. We had a lot of laughs together. But look, I feel blessed to work with Robert, and they're lovely people.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was great. I got to tell you, like, we didn't expect to have him involved as much as he was involved. On set, he was an absolute pleasure, knew everybody's name, friendly, just great guy. I mean, and at the end of production, he actually gave everybody electric bicycles.
Wow. That's awesome.
Super nice.
Do you get nervous because you deal with so many big personalities that you just never know, even though if you do have a relationship with somebody, you never know. And I mean, from everything that from the times that I've met him and the things you hear, you never really hear many things about him since he's, turned his life around, how he's everyone says how pleasant he is. But do you ever get to that place? Because you've seen all the big personalities that you're like, shit, am I going to have to deal with this? Is this going to be a problem? This guy, and he's the biggest movie star in the world. Do you still go through that even in your position?
No. Because here's the thing: like, I'm a straightforward, honest guy.
Yeah.
I put the work in. I'm nice. I'm respectful to everybody. And to be honest, it's like, I think if somebody was misbehaving and being disrespectful, I just have the honest conversation. Because I don't. It's just not a healthy set to have that going on. And
right.
It's toxic, and you can't, and I would rather step away from something than be involved with something that was like that.
Yeah. And you're probably not going to run into that with the cars, and you guys, and especially with the fact you guys are you probably two little kids. In the same way that you're talking about the way you're talking about comedy before, you got two ideal. I mean, just you're working with cars, which you love. You're working in comedy, which you love, and so you guys are probably just geeking out about cars the whole damn time.
Yeah, no, it was, and I'll tell you, like, Robert was involved in the design aspect of all those cars. Like, every little thing he was involved in. The colors, the finishes, the option, the different things, and we built like a lot of cool things over and above just restoring the cars. Like, the VW bus, has a rollout electric barbecue powered by solar panels on the roof.
Yeah.
The Vet has mushroom leather interior. So all these unique, like, cool features.
Yeah. If people wanted to, because even before I didn't tell you this yet, but right as we were getting into it, I signed up. I was saying,
that's awesome.
Let's do it. So if someone's watching right now and they're like, hey, I want to, like, and they weren't familiar with the show, and B, with getting involved in the sweepstakes, how would they go about and do all that?
So the show is currently streaming on HBO Max. There are 6 one-hour episodes that follow the build of each car. 5 of them have been chosen to be given away. But there's one left, the VW bus. You go to RDJ you can enter to win. The drawing for the bus is actually July 16th, so there's some time. But it's interesting because when I did the Lost Corvettes and even calling the winners for these, everybody says the same thing. They're shocked. They never won anything. And look, at the end of the day, it's not like there's millions of people entering this thing, so you have like a realistic shot at winning. You really do. Yeah,
it seems. I mean, just looking at the site, it was, and the fact HBO Max, when you have that initial pitch, do you guys, is that when you pitched it originally, was Zasloff there yet or not yet?
Mm-hmm.
He was there. So how's it been working with him?
Well, he was. What happened was we initially kind of pitched it to Discovery.
Okay. Okay.
So he was so far removed from me. I really had no dealings with him.
Okay.
But he was the guy who greenlit it, and he's tight with Robert. And I got to tell you, like, our experience there was great. They were great to work with. The people that were in charge of our show were awesome. I mean, the whole thing was just it was like a dream.
I know.
And it's like, you go a little further down the road, and then we get nominated for an Emmy,
Yep.
which nobody saw that coming, and then we won, which none of us expected that. We're sitting at the table that night, and we had some pretty stiff competition. The show that we thought was going to win the whole thing was Blue Zone. I don't know if you saw it. It's on a Netflix show.
Okay.
Where it talks about different areas of the world where people live to over 100 and why they live to over 100, where they're eating.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yep.
So throughout the night, they won Best Director, they won Best Cinematography, and they were up for Best Lifestyle Program like we were. And I was like, these guys are going to win. They won those two things. They're done. And then next thing you know, they call our name. So it was wild.
I'm sure it was, especially when you're not doing this for like the accolades as much as that you're doing it for. I mean, obviously it's a business decision that goes with everything, but the fact the love for cars, the idea of working with a pal, like all those. So it's what an added bonus. I'm going to Vegas with you, man.
Listen, I say it all the time. I got lucky. I really did. I mean, you think about, Scott Lonker makes an introduction to Jay Peterson.
Yeah.
He's building that car. He happens to be driving it. Johnny sees it. Robert wants to have cars worked. I mean, think about how it all came together.
Yeah. It's
nuts.
It is, and it's well. I also feel, and I don't know if it just comes with age, and I do get more of that. Everything kind of happens for a reason type of mentality. Plus the idea that you, with positivity and goodwill and all those things, you can make things really. You can manifest it and do all those things if you really believe in it. And I think that comes with relationships and everything too.
I'm a total believer in that.
Yeah,
total believer. It's like, set your goals and focus on them and make it happen.
Yeah, and say it and consistently say it and believe it. That's the thing that people don't do because they think that it's some kind of like a magical thing. They're like, manifestation. You can't just will things to happen. It's like if you believe in it and you see yourself actually doing it, and it's the only thing like forward, then it happens. And this move, Chris, I got to tell you, even this move, I was like, I knew, and I wasn't the one that wanted to move. It was my wife. My wife and my kids wanted to get out of LA. My first initial thought was, I can't do what I do there. And I was like, stop that. I was like, of course you can. And already from the things and I put myself in there, I was like, in my head, I have a studio in New York. Before I had a studio in New York. I have guests on my show all the time. I'm doing better than I did beforehand. And if you do it and you believe it, it'll happen.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
You got to put it out there.
It is.
And work hard, be respectful, be nice. All the little things that you learned as a kid, all these things, they're true.
Yeah. It is, and it's also good to be back in New York. I had a lot of really fun experiences in LA. I did. I met a lot of good people. I have a lot of very positive memories there. But just walking around here and being around the people again, and this bullshit notion that we're rude people. We're not rude. We're just honest, like you said it before. We're honest.
Listen. I moved to the city 40 years ago, 1983.
Okay.
And I love it here, and I love New York. Listen, I love California too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just it's a different vibe.
It is.
And I think, to talk about the comedy part of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you want to be a good comic, this is really where you need to be. Because I think, first of all, there are more clubs, but I just think it's much more competitive. Pound for pound, there are better comedians here. Not to say there aren't great comedians in LA. They absolutely are.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like where it's at.
I remember the first club that I ever did in New York when I must have been 19, and I did. It's not there anymore. It was the Boston Comedy Club that Barry used to.
Oh yeah,
and I used to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I remember being there, and this guy gets up right after me. He was a regular of the club, but he kept coming in. And I was fairly green, and I look up, and I'm just like, who is this person? Like, he's talking about jokes about. No, it was Jeff Ross, and it was Ross. And he was talking about his dog. And just like these poems that he had about, Angelina, about Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury, and these things that he was doing, and that was the first time I'd ever seen him. I know Sarah Silverman was there all the time, and so that was like moving from doing shit in Tallahassee, leading into then Boston Comedy Club. That was my first taste as a New York Comedy Club of like that's what it really is like, and then going to L.A. it wasn't my intention at first to get back on stage. It was to be a writer, and when I went out there, and then I was at the Improv one night. I've told the story a million times over, but I jumped up on stage one night with Rick Overton on some improv thing, and then I started doing it again. And you're right though. It's a matter of, it's just the grind here is it's different. I love the LA scene, but it's different here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's so then have you done, and you might have done one already, but has something, a TV show, Gotham related? Is that something that, and I don't mean like a stand-up special, I mean like the kind of inner workings of the Gotham Club. Is that anything that you'd be willing to explore?
We never did something like that. We've done series. We did one with Comedy Central. We did one for Mark Cuban when we had Access TV.
Yeah.
We did a number of them, but nothing kind of behind the scenes.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see it behind the scenes at Gotham. Come on.
I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something there, and like what's unique about comedy clubs is you're running a restaurant, you're running a theater. I mean, it's a lot of things wrapped up into one.
Yeah.
And it's challenging.
I'm sure it is. And so when are there people, because you have your eyes on newer people coming in all the time. Let me give you two questions for you when it comes to the comedy scene. Is there someone in particular that you saw and you knew from when they were started going, oh yeah, that's someone that's going to blow up? And then the opposite, then the opposite question of someone you're like, I don't know if this person's got it, and then they blew up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So two that come to mind, I mentioned them earlier, were Amy Schumer, and she actually wrote about it in one of her books, and I saw her early on. I said, listen, you have something special. People don't maybe not see it. I said, but stick to what you're doing. You have something, and the other one was Sebastian. I saw Sebastian up in Montreal. I saw him do a short set, and I was like, wow, this guy's really good. And I booked him to come do a weekend, and I watched him do a show, and then call my brothers like, you got to come and see this guy. This guy is unbelievable. I mean, I don't know why he's not bigger, but he's unbelievable. And he came down. He was like, oh my God. So we actually met with him when he was done. And I said, look, Sebastian, you're unbelievable. And I respect the fact you have a manager. If you're ever not happy, I'd love to talk to you about it. So that's kind of, I would say those are the two that, I kind of had that feeling. And then it's funny you mentioned Jeff Ross, because I knew Jeff early on before his name was even changed to Ross.
Yeah.
And I'd watch him work stuff out. And I was like, I don't know, like he was doing different stuff, and he would go up there with the notes and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know if this guy's gonna make it, but there was something interesting there.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if it was gonna go. And then he's huge, and he's a great. Jeff's a sweetheart. I mean, he's a really solid human being. Good people.
He is. And it's funny you mentioned about Sebastian, because Sebastian had I think just got made a regular when I was there, and before that he was the doorman, and I remember everyone because he was just starting to blow up right around the time. Just right around, he was trying to get bigger and more gigs around that time. And I was 2003, 2004, but he was a doorman, and I remember people saying nobody thought Sebastian was going to, because Sebastian would continuously work stuff out, and he's one of the hardest workers you get. But my favorite bit is, you get a black coffee and you go to work. It's my favorite line ever. It's the best. I used to quote it all the time. He was my David Gambino, who I worked with and who used to run Downey's company. But I used to quote Sebastian's stuff to him all the time. He's like, who is this person you keep quoting all the time? And he went to see him, and he's like one of his favorite comedians now. So that's great. It's a small world. It really is. But
Tiny.
It is. It really is. I'm excited for people to see your stuff, though, man. First of all, what I would tell people is that obviously, if you're in the New York area, you got to go to the Gotham Comedy Club. You have to. I mean, just listen to some of the people that we're talking about here, plus the other up-and-comers and new comedians coming in all the time. Make sure you check it out. And then, obviously, the Robert Downey Jr. The sweepstakes here with
I mean, let me tell you, that VW that we built is just, I mean, if you had to go build one today like that, because it's got an electric motor in it, all customized, you're looking at $300,000, maybe more.
Yeah.
And the fact that Robert owns it, it's signed. How do you put a value on it?
Who doesn't want Tony Stark's car? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
come on. I mean,
exactly.
and whether you guys, whether that's promoted or not, it's promoted within just people who are walking by and going, who doesn't want Tony Stark's car? I mean, come on. And plus the fact that he's so into it and he loves it so much, and then. And you mentioned this earlier too, and I think that it's something that I wanted to bring up, and a lot of people know it, and Robert brings it up all the time, as he should in the interviews, is how instrumental like Susan was and is in his life, and just turning things around, and how
she's unbelievable.
She's unbelievable, and the things that she's done, and I was so happy to see her, because I mentioned briefly when I was at the Critics' Choice Awards and her table was a little bit up from mine, and I said I hadn't seen her in probably 10 years, so I went up, I approached them, and what a year they had, obviously last year with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And she's just so, like, you could just see in how the pure joy of, and not even just when Robert was winning shit, like when like Killian was winning stuff, or Nolan, and she's just so like it's just great to see like the progression of her career and the stuff that she's done. So how about her, as far as, is she just what she's been bringing to the show also?
Oh yeah, no, she was very involved. I mean, both the Downeys were very instrumental in that show. I mean,
yeah.
It wouldn't have happened the way it happened without them. Period.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I tell you,
it's nice to.
Yes, please. Please,
it's nice to
please.
see good things come to good people. And I can't say enough about them. They're quality people.
Yeah. Well, it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you today.
Same.
I'm glad
Same.
that.
Now you got to come to the club.
I'm definitely going to come to the club. I promise you that, because I already, for a lot of different reasons. One, I want to stake it out. I want to see.
Absolutely.
And then I also want to come. I want to take my wife for a show, because I want to get her into the city. So I'm gonna hit you up. I'm gonna take you up on that.
My pleasure. That'd be great to have you. And just to reiterate, they want to enter to win the bus. They got a few weeks left. It's RDJ Dream Cars.
And I'm putting all of those links in the description, guys, so you should do it. And as Chris mentioned to you, there's not as many people that are signed up as you think, so you got a shot. And as I said, who in the world doesn't want to take a shot at this? Take a shot at it. So
listen, and whatever you donate, it's a tax write-off. It's 100% tax deductible.
It's an added bonus here. I got to have you start coming on my show and selling sponsorships. That's what I know.
Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Make sure you check it out. Links are in the description. Thanks, Chris. And I got to tell you about AG1. You guys know AG1. I mean, if you've been listening to this show long enough, you know that I love AG1. And people keep asking me. They notice. John even said when I started, new look, 20 pounds I lost. One of those reasons, AG1 became part of my routine. Because for a long time, I wasn't paying attention to what was going on in my body. It just wasn't. For me, I read labels, I verify that everything is up to the quality I need, and that is why I've stayed with AG1 for as long as I have. It is a research-backed foundational nutrition supplement, and it delivers daily nutrients, gut health support, and is backed by multiple research studies, so you can trust what you're putting into your body. Because I like coffee. I used to drink so much coffee to keep up, but I don't need it anymore, not as much, because after drinking AG1, I have realized that I have all this energy and I need less coffee to power my day. It turns out I'm not alone, because in a research study, 91% of people noticed they needed less coffee after 60 days of drinking AG1. 97% of people in a research study felt more energy after 30 days of drinking AG1. That's crazy. 91% of participants noticed that they need less coffee after 60 days of drinking AG1. That's me. Energy is a majorly important reason why it comes to I need so much energy for parenting. I can tell you that right now. AG1 contains ingredients to sustain energy so you can be the best version of yourself within each day. And it really has worked for me, and it's helped me on the plane, everything. It's easy, it's satisfying to start your journey with AG1. If you go to AG1, and you can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. You got to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. drinkag1.com/bigthing. It's the one product I trust to support my whole body health. It's AG1. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. I wanted to let you guys know about something that I've mentioned before, but I know that a lot of times when you're looking for gifts, I'm terrible at looking for gifts. I really am. And I want to find special gifts, and I want people to know that that I was caring about it. I was thinking about it, and I put some thought into it. And I'm always like, what do I do? And then I discovered Songfinch. Well, what's Songfinch? I found Songfinch, and it is a game changer. It's thoughtful, it's unique, and they're going to feel super special. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people you love. It's completely unique, it's personal, and it lasts forever. You can use it for graduation, you could do wedding, you could do anniversary, or even just a gift to show your loved one how much you care. Start your song now to lock in one of Songfinch's top artists. So I did it. I'm going to give you a little bit. I did one for my wife, and I was excited. I gave a whole bunch of different things about things that we met, things about our kids, and all these things that I thought would be a really good basis for a song. And take a little.
A comedian from New York met an artist from LA, and it seems as though we're opposites, but we're meant to be.
You just get a little tease, but you get it. You understand exactly what we're working with here, and you can stream it. You can do all this stuff with it. It's amazing. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person you gift it to can listen to it anywhere, anytime. Go to songfinch.com/Harloff and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, and it's a $50 value. Again, you got to use that URL, songfinch.com/Harloff. Don't forget to share your song with us, too, though. We want to hear it. songfinch.com/Harloff. All right, first of all, thank you to our wonderful sponsors. Make sure that if you haven't already signed up to any of our sponsors, that you do. It helps out the show. It helps us get great guests like Chris. It helps us get great guests in general. It helps us continue to do these shows 5 days a week, and it allows us just to keep putting out content for you guys. So if you're able to and you want to, and I only sign up to sponsors that I think you guys are going to dig, so make sure you check those out. All right. So moving on now to some other news stories. Let's talk about this. All right, The Acolyte. Now, this show, divisive to say the least. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people are in the middle. Some people feel that people are nitpicking. I've certainly been accused of that. But The Acolyte is a conversation nonetheless. And episode 6 comes out tonight. Now, a lot of people loved episode 5. I mean, absolutely loved it. And I saw comments on my reactions and my reviews of, hey, listen, I haven't liked episodes 1 through 4, but you're crazy if you don't like 5. 5 was great. Had a lot of good lightsaber fights. It had all this stuff. It had everything. It had the lore. It had everything that you needed in the Star Wars. I can't believe that you didn't like it. I dug it. Those people I actually listened to because they're respectful comments. Other people with stupid comments I don't listen to. But those are comments that you're like, okay. Those are comments that are fair, and people really dug it. So to those people who felt like, hey, I didn't like those first 4 episodes, but I really liked that 5th, to them, they've already answered the question of, will episode 6 start to turn things around? Because in their mind, they said, well, 5 turned it around. 5 started to turn it around for me, so can 6 continue it for them is more of the question. But the question that I'm asking for those who haven't responded to the show, and then there's other people, by the way, who have been on board with this since episode 1 and said, you guys are all nuts. This show's been great. There is no turning around for this show. There's no need to turn around this show because this show's been great, and everybody is just hating. I think people irresponsibly use that word, hating, all the time. Because you can dislike something and criticize something and say, I'm not enjoying this. Doesn't mean you're hating on it. It just means you don't enjoy it. Now, there are certainly people who are just hating to hate. But nonetheless, then there's people who just haven't enjoyed it, like myself. And now the question can be, will episodes 6 through 8 unify all of those people, or at least a majority of those people? Can there be a switch? And I don't know. It's a little tough for me to say that it can be, because it means that they would have to think that something was wrong in the tone, because I'm not enjoying the tone itself in the way that this tone has been. I'll tell you what, I'm going to Miyagi this thing. I thought, guys, that by being in this new studio, I wasn't going to get the flies and the squirrels and the birds, but there's a fly, and he made his way in here. And I hate his guts. But anyway, the show will continue to be what it is, I think. I think they have their tone, and they know what their tone is, and they have their story, and they're going to continue their story. Now, I was talking about this with Rocha, and Rocha is convinced that Filoni has changed the original version of what Leslie Headland wanted. And the show that's I don't know where he's coming up with that, or whether it's just him thinking it, or whether he's heard stuff. I don't know. I haven't heard any of that stuff. I'm not sure. But I can only judge what I see. And I think that this is a show that just is not landing for me. And people keep saying, well, why do you keep talking about this show if you don't like it? Because I want it to be good. I want to be wrong and say they are going to turn the tone around, and it's going to be completely. You're going to watch this 6th episode and go, whoa, okay, look, this one delivered, this one worked. I push back on anybody who's like, you just wanted to hate it. That's not what I do. I've never done that, and I'll never do that. If a show's good, if I go into it going, I'm skeptical, but I can come out. I remember going to see Dread, that movie. I'm going, this movie's going to suck, and I came out raving about that movie. I don't do that. It's just not. I don't find any value in doing that. Of wanting to hate something just to hate something. There's no value in that. Well, there's clicks in it. Then don't give me the clicks. It's not what I'm here for. I'm here to say I like this, I don't like it, and then the same thing. You love it, you should love it, and I'm glad if you do. I'm hoping that Skeleton Crew does the same thing to me that Andor did. I didn't expect anything from Andor. I thought Andor was going to be terrible. Now, I shouldn't say terrible. I shouldn't say terrible. That's not fair. I didn't care about the fact when they said Andor. It's like, we know he's dead. What do we need to see Andor for? This is the most least exciting show that they have announced, Andor. Why are we doing Andor? He was like kind of a forgettable character. Best show, arguably, that they've done. You can argue seasons 1 and season 2 of Mandalorian, but written, script-wise, overall, there's no comparison. And I'm hoping, because John Watts is involved in this, and John Watts did The Old Man, that show, which was really, really good show. And I feel like the writing, and Jude Law, and I feel like the writing of this show is going to be pretty detailed. I feel like we're going to get some real stuff. I hope that we don't get, there is a consistent tone in it. If you want to get into the Roka conspiracy of the Filoni thing, there is a similar tone, though, to Acolyte that there was in the writing of Ahsoka, that there was in Obi-Wan. It's like, I don't know. And it's so funny how I changed my tune over the years, because I used to think that Filoni was the guy. I just don't think he's the guy anymore. I just don't think he's the guy. I think he's a good storyteller, but I don't think he's a great writer. And I think his idea of what Star Wars should be is very old school and is very contained. And I hope that doesn't hurt Skeleton Crew. It certainly didn't help. It didn't hurt Andor. And from what I hear, he wasn't involved in Andor at all. So I wonder. I don't know. Could absolutely be wrong. But will it turn it around? Acolyte? I mean, I hope so. I'm looking forward to Skeleton Crew is all I can say. I think that's, to me, is like, I've kind of, not that I've written it off, but I want, what I wanted to say to people is, hey man, you're enjoying this show. Amazing. Let's see if we can, let's see what the next one brings us in December. And then we'll say which one we thought was better. Maybe we'll agree, maybe we'll disagree, and then we'll move on. I don't even know if there's been any other shows. Well, Ahsoka, I guess. Ahsoka season 2 has been announced. But other than that, they've kind of pulled back on announcing 75 different shows. Not with animated not included. I know they're doing the, I think they're doing another, well, they just did the Tales of the Empire. I never watched that one. You guys like that, right? Never watched that one. But as far as live action goes, they haven't even mentioned Mandalorian, but they're pulling back a little bit, which is a good thing. We still don't even know when the movies are coming out, but I don't know. We'll see after tonight. I think I think that there's going to be a definitive answer for me anyway. If tonight is the same, if I feel the same way about the episodes that I have felt, to me, it's going to be like, this show just, it was what it was. And you guys, if you feel the same way, if it was as good as last week's for you guys, then you're going to say, hey, not for you, but it is for me. But we'll see. Do you think you can turn it around? If you didn't like this, if you're not liking the show, do you think it's possible to turn it around? Or are you exactly what I said, someone who doesn't think it needs any turning around, and it's great the way it is? Put your comments in there. All right, a few more things. The Bear, crushing it. Disney has revealed that the third season of its acclaimed restaurant kitchen set comedy series, The Bear, reached 5.4 million views in its first 4 days of availability on Hulu. 24% more views than season 2 premiere achieved in the same amount of time. It's a second consecutive season of growth for The Bear, which saw a 70% viewership jump between the first two seasons. The launch broke the record of the best performance ever for an FX premiere on Hulu and was also the most watched season premiere for any scripted series on Hulu to date. Overall, including unscripted series, The Bear Season 3 launch was Hulu's third biggest season premiere of all time. The viewership accounts for Hulu on Disney Plus in the U.S., and on the Star section of Disney Plus in international territories where the episode was available. Okay, this is great news, man, because it's a great show. Now, I don't love the fact. I'm very curious, though. This is what I will say. I wonder, though, if they would have just put out episode 1. If they would have just put out episode 1, would the same numbers have been as big and then gotten bigger as episode 2, 3, 4, and 5 come out week to week to week? Or they just say, I don't give a crap. Look at those numbers. We are thrilled. We are thrilled with what we have. And they should be. Those are big numbers. The question is, how long is this in the conversation? Because I used to get this pushback from people when they were like, people are still talking about Fallout. You're wrong. They were talking about it for like 3 weeks, and it was over. 3 weeks. And people love that show. But if they would have done it week to week to week to week to week to week to week, people would have watched it more. But it does go back to the previous conversation as we were talking about with Max and Paramount Plus, how important it was with the Hulu coming on over to Disney, how that adds to it. You're already on Disney Plus. You scroll around, you see it. You use the app that you're already on. You watch The Bear. And the show, and so for people asking, I love the show. I'm episode 1. I just finished Dark Matter finally. And I loved the episode. I mean, the season. If you haven't watched Dark Matter on Apple, and you have Apple, watch that show. It's the story of Apple. They have all the quality stuff on there that not a lot of people are aware of. Every time you bring up a show on Apple, they go, "Oh, what's that?" And they have some of the best content. They're making quality stuff over at Apple. Quality, way more quality over quantity, and great stuff. And Dark Matter is right up my alley. It was absolutely incredible. Joel Edgerton, Jennifer Connelly, just doing amazing stuff. Now, The Bear is something I will probably knock out this week because I started episode 1, really enjoying it thus far. Got to finish the rest of it. I will, and once I just tap into it, I won't stop watching it. But yeah, it goes back to that conversation of should they have done week to week or, the binge watch. And it's a conversation and a debate, I think, that happens on this show all the time. And I encourage it to happen in the comments section today, of whether or not you think that it's a smart move for them to do it. And clearly with the results that they had today, maybe that's the play that they wanted to do, and they feel happy doing so. So go ahead and put your comments in there and tell me exactly what you think about that. Okay, last story of the day. Let's talk about this. Beetlejuice. Oh, I said it. I'm sorry. Tim Burton's highly anticipated supernatural comedy sequel, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice has been announced as the opening film of the upcoming Venice Film Festival next month. It will world premiere out of competition on August 28th at the Lido's Palazzo del Cinema, the screening coming just days ahead of its global release in the first week of September. Michael Keaton returns to his iconic character from the 1988 original with Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara back as Lydia and Delia Dietz, respectively, with Wednesday star Jenna Ortega as Lydia's daughter, Astrid. After an unexpected family tragedy, 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter, Astrid, discovers the mysterious model of the town in the attic, and the portal to the afterlife is accidentally opened. With trouble brewing in both realms, it's only a matter of time until someone says Beetlejuice's name 3 times, and the mischievous demon returns to unleash his very own brand of mayhem. Justin Theroux, Monica Bellucci, Arthur Conti, and Willem Dafoe co-star, while Burton directs from a screenplay by Alfred Goh and Miles Millar. Now, if you watch my most anticipated movies of 2024 list, this was on the list. Why? I'm not like a massive Tim Burton fan. Respect him, legend. But there's a lot of stuff of his I don't like, and sometimes I thought his style overtook certain movies. But Beetlejuice ain't one of those. Beetlejuice is a classic. I love Beetlejuice. Love that movie. Love Michael Keaton's performance in it. I love the idea also because Michael Keaton in this makeup, you can't tell that he's really aged. He still has that youthful energy, and he's gonna knock it out of the park. But I do think that I think Beetlejuice is going to wind up being not the villain in this one. I think he's going to wind up being the hero in this one, if I was to guess, but maybe I'm wrong. And I have a 12-year-old who is obsessed with Beetlejuice, took her to see the play, the musical. She loved that. So the fact that this is opening up a festival, it is curious, though. I know it's only coming early. It comes only, I think, a week before is what they said, before the release, which is fine. Remember what happened with Indiana Jones. When Indiana Jones opened, I think it was Cannes, I think so. It opened, it didn't open Cannes, but it was in Cannes. And the critics buried it, and it got some bad press right away. And I don't think that was a week beforehand. I think it was a few weeks, maybe in a month or two beforehand, and that was not the smartest play. So a week before, but even you got to have you have to have real confidence in the movie. And who knows, maybe they really did have a lot of confidence in the Indiana Jones movie, and they just kind of said, wow, that didn't go over the way we thought it would. But this is always an interesting gamble when you put it out there, especially in a movie of this caliber. I don't think this movie needs a festival. People are either you want to see Beetlejuice, and I think that it's going to be. I think this movie's going to do very well. And the fact that it's coming in September is not normally a movie release date month. Where you get these big kind of titles. So this is going to be interesting, and it's a good place to put a movie that you could look at. Beverly Hills Cop 4, which I think is coming out tomorrow. Beverly Hills Cop 4. You couldn't imagine in 20 years ago that Beverly Hills Cop 4 is going to debut on television. What? And now it is. It could have also debuted in September or even October. Now, a summer movie, I don't know. I don't know if it could have been a summer movie. But this movie in September, I think it's going to do very, very well. It might be one of the biggest September openings ever, if I was going to guess. I think people are excited about this one. Anyway, what say you guys? Put your comments in there. Tell me what you think. Please give me your comments and your feedback on the interview with Chris Mazzilli. Like I said in the interview, sign up to that. I mean, he said there wasn't enough people. I mean, there was a lot of people that signed up, but there wasn't that many that you would think. So you got a shot to win one of Robert Downey Jr.'s cars. Who wouldn't want to do that? So please give me your thoughts on the interview itself, because it helps the algorithm. It helps the channel. It helps the people who put these interviews together say, oh, the audience is really engaged in that one, and they thought this about it. We got to get someone else on the show. So put your comments in there. And if you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 200,000 faster than we got to 100 if you can. That's it, man. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Thanks for joining us here on the show today. It's The Big Thing, and we'll see you later.